The Swedish Parliament has approved a name change for Sweden's trade office in Taipei. Swedish Member of Parliament Boriana Åberg tells me why they want to call it the House of Sweden and why Sweden could be joining NATO soon.
As Mother's Day approaches, we take a look at how mothers are doing this year, and in #Taiwan, we're celebrating National Bubble Tea Day. This is Taiwan Insider.
Welcome to the show. The Swedish Parliament has passed a proposal approving the name change for their trade office in Taipei to the House of Sweden. What does that mean? Well, the House of Sweden is the name of an iconic building in Washington, D.C. that houses the Swedish Embassy. Today, I speak with Boriana Åberg. She recently led a delegation of Swedish parliamentarians to Taiwan. She's the chair of the Swedish-Taiwanese Parliamentary Association. There she is telling her foreign minister Taiwan needs to join the WHA. She tells us about the significance of the Swedish Parliament passing the House of Sweden proposal for Taiwan.
I hope that it's not only a change of name, but increasing of the function of our representation in Taipei. For us, it's a clear message that Sweden and Swedish people support Taiwan, and we are very interested in increasing the relationship between our two countries. It's a very, very important decision, and we are very proud that the announcement of Committee on Foreign Affairs passed through the Parliament with such a big majority, 205 votes for and 80 against.
The House of Sweden is actually a beautiful and iconic building in Washington, D.C. that houses your embassy and some trade offices. So is this a move towards recognizing Taiwan as a country?
I hope so. But now I can say that it's a step forward to increase our relations. But I hope that in the future we could have normal diplomatic relations because Taiwan deserves that.
The next step is actually for the executive government to approve the name change. How likely do you think this is?
I think it will be hard for the government to neglect this very strong message from the parliament, and I can promise you that our Swedish-Taiwanese parliamentarian organization will remind the government in every possible occasion that they need to fulfill the will of Swedish people.
Is there a timeline for the executive government to act on this?
No, unfortunately, it's not. But as I said, the pressure from the parliament will be strong.
So are you afraid of China's reaction?
No, actually not. It's not my job to make China happy. It's my job to make my voters satisfied. And I'm sure that they want me to support the democracy of Taiwan.
Sweden's foreign policy has actually been affected a lot by the Ukraine war. It's the first time in over 200 years that you've sent arms to another country. Your country is thinking of joining NATO, along with Finland. How has the Ukraine war affected your policy towards Taiwan?
The Russian war of aggression in Ukraine pushed a special button in Sweden. We realize that a foreign policy based on democracy is not just beautiful words. We need to act in accordance to this policy, and it makes us to change our policy of neutrality, and I think it will influence our relation to Taiwan too, and our support for Taiwan, because all the democracies in the whole world need to stand up for each other. We cannot be isolated and just look at when autocracies move their positions forward. We need to fight autocracies together. And Taiwan is a very, very well-developed democracy, and we need Taiwan and Taiwan's experience in this fight against dictatorship and autocracies.
It seems that your parliament will be reviewing whether you should join NATO. What do you think the prospects are for Sweden joining NATO?
I think the prospects are very, very good because we cannot stand alone in this environment. The threats from Russia very visible. We need the protection offered by NATO. According to the polls, a majority of Swedish people want Sweden to be member in NATO. I think during the summer, the Swedish Parliament will be able to vote for a membership in NATO.
So you're not afraid of backlash by Russia?
It's not time to be afraid. It's time to act. And as I said, look at Ukraine. They fight every day. They have terrible loss because they're alone. They're not member in NATO. If they were member, the situation will be completely different.
You recently led the first delegation of Swedish lawmakers to Taiwan. Tell me what your impression of Taiwan was.
It was a great visit. We were so impressed by this warm hospitality and friendship we received from the first moment in Taiwan. I hope that this exchange, not only on parliamentary level, but also on governmental level, will continue. And I hope that your Minister of Foreign Affairs, Wu, will be able to visit us. And I hope that our visit was just the first step in development of our relations.
Even though Taiwan is going through a spike in COVID-19 cases right now, the government continues to roll back pandemic-related restrictions. This is a move to introduce what the government calls living with COVID. Now, starting next Monday, people coming into Taiwan will only have to quarantine for 7 days instead of 10.
This man says 10 days is a long time to spend in quarantine and advises others not to come back to Taiwan unless they have to. This couple also think the quarantine is too long. Well, they may be happy to learn that Taiwan's Central Epidemic Command Center announced on Tuesday that from May 9th, quarantine for incoming travelers will be shortened to 7 days, followed by another week of avoiding crowded places and eating out. Travelers who cannot stay at home alone will need to quarantine at a designated hotel or facility. The 7-day quarantine period starts on the day following arrival and ends on day 7 after presenting a negative rapid test. But many in Taiwan wonder if relaxing regulations during a spike in COVID-19 cases could lead to even more infections. Pediatrician Huang Limin says new variants of the COVID-19 virus, BA4 and BA5, are spreading overseas, and if they find their way to Taiwan, they could contribute to a further rise in cases. Taiwan's current COVID policy is aiming for what is referred to as living with the virus. Most people infected with the current dominant strain, Omicron, recover relatively quickly and largely show mild symptoms. Vaccination rates are also constantly increasing. That is why many expect the quarantine period to be shortened still in the future. Dr. Jiang Guanyu says the transmissibility of BA4 and BA5 variants is similar to existing strains, while immunity in the population is increasing. Because of this, we may see quarantine for incoming travelers shortened to 5 or even 3 days. Taiwan seems firmly on the path of opening up. How fast that happens will most likely depend on factors like symptom severity and the capacity of the healthcare system.
Mother's Day is coming up this Sunday, which means it's time to really show moms how much we appreciate all the hard work that they do. Our next report shows how the past few years of the pandemic have left mothers feeling more tired than ever.
Families around Taiwan are preparing to celebrate Mother's Day this Sunday. But a new study has found that mothers are feeling increasingly fatigued. and the pandemic is only making things worse. Website Yes123 has been conducting the ongoing study for 3 years now. This year's findings show that mothers are more fatigued than ever. The industries with the highest fatigue scores were food and hospitality, public relations, and public health. Celebrities Sonia Sui and Karen Hu recently discussed their experiences as working mothers in a YouTube video. Sui opened up about how her children can be both her greatest source of weakness and fatigue, but also her greatest source of strength and joy. She talked about how important it is for mothers to remember to love themselves. Despite a surge in COVID-19 cases in Taiwan, 91% of the Yes123 study respondents said they plan to go out and celebrate Mother's Day this weekend. One mother said she's touched that her children insisted on celebrating Mother's Day with her this year. Still don't know what to get mom for Mother's Day? Don't worry, the study has you covered. The results found that cash, vacations, and family portraits are the most popular gifts with moms.
Next up, in #Taiwan, Leslie talks about a holiday that celebrates Taiwan's most iconic drink.
April 30th was National Bubble Tea Day. Now, if you've been living under a rock for the past 3 decades, well, bubble tea is a sweetened milk tea drink with chewy tapioca balls in it. It's hugely popular, so if this is your first time hearing about it, well then first, I'm sorry you had to hear about it from me, and second, stop this video and stop what you're doing and go drink some bubble tea right now. Though National Bubble Tea Day is observed in the US, well, bubble tea itself is actually a Taiwanese invention, in case you didn't know. CNN has this article on the drink's origin. I stress that bubble tea is Taiwanese because Wasik Salan, who lives in Finland, says that there's a bubble tea shop over there that claims to be a taste of Japan, which I got my eye on you, Finland. So that's why we're going to be talking about the holiday. Here's the story of how National Bubble Tea Day came to be. There's an American bubble tea chain called Kung Fu Tea. It was founded back in 2010 in Flushing, New York. Don't let the term American fool you. Flushing, New York is home to the second largest Taiwanese population in the United States. Trust me, I grew up near there. My Chinese teacher growing up, whom I still have nightmares about, lived in Flushing. I really hope she isn't watching this. Anyway, where was I? Right. So Kung Fu Tea was founded on April 30th, 2010. And in 2018, on the company's 8th anniversary, it decreed that April 30th would henceforth be known as National Bubble Tea Day. This past Bubble Tea Day, though, people in Taiwan celebrated the drink along with the US. Both President Tsai Ing-wen and Vice President William Lai posted about their love for bubble tea on social media. If you're gonna be Taiwan's leader, you have to love bubble tea. It's in the Constitution. But it's not just our president and a vice president who professed their love for bubble tea. People all over Taiwan did it. Australian representative to Taiwan Jenny Bloomfield celebrated bubble tea, calling it a Taiwanese culinary innovation. Now, some people asked, why is Taiwan celebrating an American holiday? This isn't really about the holiday, it's more about celebrating something that's Taiwanese, and maybe giving people a reason to drink bubble tea, not that they need it. And before we go back to the studio, here are some of the other stories that are on our radar.
Taiwan has begun vaccinating children aged 6 and up against COVID-19. All minors need to get their parents' permission before they can get their shots. So far, only the Moderna brand is available, but plans are underway to offer Pfizer-BioNTech as well. A batch of 2,000 Pfizer doses arrived in Taiwan on Wednesday for testing. Taiwan launched a rationing system for COVID-19 rapid tests late last week. During each round of rationing announced by the government, people can buy 5 tests at a price of $100 NT each. Authorities say they're ready to distribute 170 million tests this way. At the same time, the government is working with businesses to ramp up production and buy more tests from overseas. In a recent CNN interview, Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu said that Taiwan is ready and prepared to defend itself in the event of an invasion by China. Wu says China is waging so-called gray zone warfare against Taiwan by flying planes into Taiwan's air defense zone and spreading fake news to divide society. But Wu says as long as Taiwan can buy military weapons from its allies, it is ready to face China's military threat.
And we're back in the studio for our final question of the day. And you might notice that the camera angle's a little closer. We just thought, bring it in, why not, during this socially distant time when we can be closer to you via camera. It's always good. The question I have for my co-host today is, well, Even though we mentioned we're going through a COVID-19 spike right now, this weekend is still Mother's Day. And as you just saw, mothers are more fatigued than ever, so we think we still got to celebrate it somehow. And my question is, how would we celebrate Mother's Day in the time of a COVID-19 spike? Emma?
Okay, so I'm gonna have a nice video call with my mom. Yeah, so we are super socially distanced right now. She's in New York and I haven't seen her in 3 years. So unfortunately, this is about as much as I can do with her for now, but I'm so excited because I'll be going home in about 2 months and then we can really celebrate Mother's Day again once I'm finally back.
That's a great answer, Emma. I mean, like, you guys are already kind of distant. So if you guys have a video call, I'm sure she's going to be glad to see you. So that's great. Natalie, you're a mom, so I guess this is kind of giving your family a hint about how you
yeah,
celebrate
well,
it, right?
we already have plans because you have to book early for Mother's Day. So we are going out to a very nice dinner at an Italian restaurant. And what I love is my kids usually give me cards and they write some nice sentiments, heartfelt sentiments. So that means a lot to me.
Is Italian food your favorite?
Yes, I
Okay.
love Italian food.
That's right. For me, though, I'm going to take a page from what my mom told me growing up. She told me, Leslie, 95% of your problems in life can be solved with a little bit of money. So I'm just going to throw a big stack at her and see. I'm just going to tell her I'm going to have the money out and I'm going to have her tell me when to stop. Just basically giving it to her one by one and then just be like, Mom, just tell me when to stop. And that just about does it for this week's show. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it very much. For Taiwan Insider, that's Emma Banak. I'm Leslie Liao.
And I'm Natalie Tso. And also follow us on social media. We are on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and now on Instagram.
That's right. Our social media manager, Mati, does some great work on there, and that'll tide you over until next week's show. Anyway, guys, until then, we'll see you next time.